activist, journalist, writer, Chuck Moody. We're gonna talk about Cop City and
Yeah.
organizing Cop City because we were just talking about Palestinian rights.
Yes.
And there's a connection here because
talk about it. It's a perfect segue. Talk about it, Nick.
absolutely. You gotta see what I did there. It's a perfect segue because as a Black American, there's been a long time solidarity between the Black Panthers, Malcolm X, Black organizers in the civil rights movement, and South Africans resisting apartheid, Palestinians resisting apartheid. Because you guys know that people are protesting against Cop City are being charged as domestic terrorists.
Yeah.
For resisting authoritarian state. What does that sound like? Palestinians.
Fascism? Yeah.
Fascism. You're right on that. You're absolutely right. But the same thing that's happening to Palestinians in Israel, where they're labeled terrorists for resisting the state, is happening literally in Atlanta right now. So,
right
Chuck,
now.
I appreciate you joining us. You do a lot of great reporting on Cop City. I know it's your work, and we definitely appreciate you being an ally and standing up for this issue. So, for the people who don't know, can we treat everything baseline here on this? Why is resisting Cop City so important? What is Cop City, and how can people organize the fight? As an introduction, Chuck. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me. Thanks, Rome. And I loved your previous guest. If you took over my whole segment, I'd been perfectly fine because that's so important what he's talking about. He was dropping some gems. Cop City is they're building a $90 million facility. That's the Atlanta police, and funded in large part about $60 million through the Atlanta Police Foundation, which is a corporate private entity, and putting a lot of money. That's really why it is happening. And in many ways, and they're tearing down a forest. So we're dealing with climate justice issues. We're dealing with people in Atlanta will not be able to breathe as well afterwards. So you have this great resistance for a couple of years with climate justice activists, of racial justice activists. And this facility came in the wake of the 2020 uprising, and most specifically in Atlanta, the Rayshard Brooks uprising. And what they did in Atlanta City, in Atlanta, they used that as an excuse to say, we need this Cop City, this entire military training ground. And I use the word military on purpose because what they're going to do is they're really doing it to subdue protests, just like your previous guest was talking about in Palestine. So in many ways, what has happened in the last 10 years or more, police officers from America have been going to train in Israel with the IDF. They called deadly exchange. I was just
about to say that, motherfucker. You took my fucking...
You know, Ro. Listen, you know about this.
Because I saw somebody
putting
just
the connection together, right?
Yeah.
But so they would come back, including the former DC police chief, have glowing reviews, and learn that oppression, right? And I want to say it's not theoretical, it's not symbolic. Police are going over to Israel to do the same tactics here. It's actually direct. So for those individuals who aren't moral enough to be disturbed by what's going on in Gaza, let me tell you that if that doesn't move you, it should move you that it is training police officers right here and has been. And what Cop City is almost taking that and bringing it home. Because Atlanta, 43% of it will be outside of Atlanta, and in many cases, an international base. And that you're going to have these corporations have people from other countries come to Atlanta and train like what happens in Israel. And I learned a lot of that just in my last trip in June. I was interviewing a lot of people. They have a project called the Gilly Project, that's kind of been happening at a smaller scale for the last 20 years, and that's going to be expanded. So, that's a little bit of background, but there are three things that, if not everyone is sure that they know, we had an execution of Tortuguita back in January. That's really when I really started getting involved. I was sleeping. I'm going to tell everybody else. If you come in late on Cop City, if you come in late on the Stop Cop City movement, don't worry about it. Everybody's late. There have been people in that forest who were fighting a couple of years ago. We're all late, but we need you anyway. So there was an execution in January. There have been 42 protesters who were given domestic terror charge for the crime of having mud on their shoes and listening to music in a field. And I am not being really hyperbolic about that at all. And then the third thing, they had people who were supporting those protesters, help them get out of jail, SWAT raids on bail supporters. So if you were to support those who are protesting, you too can get slammed with domestic terror charges. And some people might have seen that video of a SWAT raid. And it took that SWAT raid on people supporting to get maybe some of the mainstream news finally involved. They were finally appalled. Get some tiny little comments from public officials. So this is where we're at. And there are a variety of forms of resistance, from trying to do it democratically, from trying to do it from a corporate perspective, and so on.
Yeah, and this is one example of many of the coverage I saw you did on Cop City, and what you said there was extremely important. Even if you came late, this is an extremely important issue. Like I see, and I use the term deeply unserious a lot. People always laugh because I use it, because there's a lot of people in this space that talk about a lot of deeply unserious shit.
Yeah,
I think if you're a commentator, if you're an activist, if you're not worried about what happened in Ukraine, what the U.S. provoking war with China, and domestically, if you're not concerned with the rise of rank authoritarian police states, you are deeply unserious.
Yeah,
you have right wingers talking about oh my God, the Democrats are authoritarian as they help in building Cop City. Like, there are a few issues. If I don't see you focus on them, I view you as unserious. Policing is one of them. Policing is one of them issues that exposes all the people who claim they care about freedom, liberty, especially libertarians, conservatives. Like, we believe in small government. Except the cops who had the ability to pull you over and ruin your life and steal your wealth whenever they feel like it. I saw Ron DeSantis talk about small government. He listed all these departments that he wanted to cut. He was like, I want to cut the Department of Education, EPA. And during his speech by this small government conservative, you want to know what was not mentioned?
Police.
I'm blowing police state, the FBI, the CIA.
I mean, if I was an empire and I was getting ready to go to war, like we are openly getting ready to go to war with, China, excuse me, we are already at war with Russia openly. There's an uprising that's going to be not only happening because of these wars, but because of people are so poor. They can't get by, they can't pay their bills. Of course they're going to. If I had an empire, if I ran an empire, of course I would train or have at least a facility to where I can get other people to come in and keep y'all in place, or kill y'all if y'all get too uppity, So yeah, it makes sense, and this is why we all should be pushing against, the police expanding. Like, the police shouldn't even have this much power as it is. They shouldn't have a union in the first fucking place, right? But take a step back and really think about, the outcome of having all these police officers, from here and foreign. It's not going to be a good. It's not going to be a good thing. And I keep telling white people, especially ones that come from privileged backgrounds and whatnot, you guys don't understand how it feels to actually have your neighborhood over policed. You don't know what that feel like, to be harassed, and there's nothing you can do. Like, I remember I have had my rights broken all my damn life. Like, I've been pulled over probably like 17 times when I between 12 and 15, and me not knowing the law, I didn't even know they couldn't even talk to me. But here they are.
I bet you, and you read a lot, you know a lot of stuff, Ron, but I bet you those experiences from 12 to 17 were worth more than 100 books on what policing is about.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Because I got robbed a couple of times.
I'm sorry, Ron. Studies show the people who have the most positive opinions about the police are the people who don't interact with them at all.
Yeah,
like these are the people who watch Rush Hour and they think that cops are like Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. They're having fun dialogue. Like, I don't know what the hell they envision the police being, but as someone who had constant contact with them, they're not pleasant. They don't help us at all. I shared my experience many times of when my apartment was robbed. Before I deep calling out of my mind, I called the police, think they're gonna have law and order SVU in that motherfucker. No, they literally told me they could not care less. They could not care less. There's sorry, nothing you can do. We're not interested in helping you. We're interested in helping the world class. And I need people to understand that Cop City and the emergence of Cop City is just a start. Cop City is the response to the growing unrest due to late-stage capitalism. So instead of improving the material needs of the people, capitalism will revert to authoritarianism in order to whip the masses in line. So we are more socialist than ever. We are more union organizing than ever. We have more anti-government sentiment than ever. Do you guys think it's a coincidence that Cop City spurs when these things happening? Not a coincidence at all. Now I'm gonna show you guys two things real quick, and I will get your reaction, Chuck, because our government is becoming.
Yeah.
I don't like the term authoritarianism because I explained the propaganda use of that term. But just for the simplicity of this, let's say our government become more increasingly authoritarian, right? In resisting Cop City, the government is openly denying people their First Amendment rights on this, and you see the Ron DeSantis right, the MAGA right that pretends.
Oh yeah, I was there that day. By the way, I was a few feet away. I actually messed up because she was behind me, and I thought Lorraine moved forward. So that was actually an error on my part.
So you know more about this.
Well, go ahead.
So you know more about. I want to ask you about this then.
I was in that parking lot.
Okay, I didn't know that. It's super interesting.
Yeah.
So while I'm showing, I'll quickly introduce it, and then I'll play the video. I want to get your thoughts, Chuck, since you was there. But the theme, I have this, and I have another video where, like, the government is not even hiding the fact that your rights are temporary because we're supposed to have a right to protest, but the government, like, you can't protest there. You can't protest that way. You can't protest there. Oh, you're making me uncomfortable over there. If the government can tell you when and how to protest, you have a glorified prep rally. It's not a protest. And you had Ron DeSantis who want to crack down on this even more. To the point where these videos are straight up normalized now. You got blue flag cop lovers who see this shit. They don't even flinch. They don't even realize what is going on here. This is before I got into politics, before I decolonized my mind, when I would think of a communist country, like when I thought of a communist country, I thought of this. Like growing up with propaganda, you see authorities arresting people for speaking out against the state. That is happening here. Anyway, let me play the video. I want to get your thoughts on the show. We don't have to put the whole thing, but this is here's the comment. I'm muted for now. Here's Stephen Donziger reporting on this. Atlanta police arrested a 76-year-old woman for protesting Cop City training complex. Look at this based ass ally. Definitely alive during the civil rights movement. See that shit happen. She's like, nah, fuck. I'm not gonna stand in the alley by Cop City happening. So base as hell. She was hella alive during the civil rights movement, right? Still out here in the street fighting for our community. So they arrest her. She's like, you're gonna be an ally to the people we're suppressing? Arrested.
Yeah.
Anyway,
look how you doing. Look how you dragging this older woman. Like, is that a woman dragging her? I can't tell. I don't even give a fuck. You shouldn't even be touching her, man. Like, this is barbaric.
Yeah. Chuck, I want to get if you want.
Sure. I'm probably the perfect person to give the context because I was there that day, and I filmed.
Absolutely, I didn't know that.
Yeah, in Home Depot. So essentially, that's Lorraine. She's a legendary protester in Atlanta. She's beloved, right? And I got to speak there and interview her after she was locked up. Well, what preceded that is a protest against Home Depot. And so we go in Home Depot, and Lorraine's behind me, and there are a few people around. And, I was asked to film. So I filmed the whole thing that they're in Home Depot. And the police officers asked the protesters to leave, and the protesters complied. Not only that, I filmed an officer saying once they leave the premises, they're fine. I never released that video because they still got a case, but I literally have evidence contradicting the police's case, and I have it on video. I just haven't put it out.
Isn't it funny how many times that happens? Like the police will just lie, but go ahead, Chuck. That happens all the time.
But I didn't put it out because I just want to make sure we had the best possible case, but I gave it to all their people, right? And they come out, and the group moves this way, but Lorraine and another protester sort of maybe left turn and went to their cars to get something, and then the police moved in. Luckily, we had other independent media behind me. I'm so happy, and they caught this. And this is what they were doing the whole week. There was a part of a week of action. So if they're going to start arresting 76-year-old protesters doing nothing after they said once you're on the parking lot, you're fine, it gives you a little understanding of what people in Atlanta, protesters in Atlanta, are dealing with, why Tortuguita was executed, why 42 protesters were given terrorist charge, why we have Stop Cop City raids, and why there's a resistance against the facility itself. That if this is what they're doing to Lorraine, what do you think is going to happen to all the black people in Atlanta should Stop Cop City be built? or rather, should
I
Cop City be built?
I want to ask you guys a theoretical question because you know I like poking the bear. You guys know I like eliciting thought, right? So if a good cop exists,
yeah,
wouldn't they refuse this order?
Yes. Well,
you guys see the premise behind
yeah.
ACAB? We not
in
being
DC, there's a chant. It says, "No good cops in a racist system. No good cops in a racist system. No bad protesters in a revolution. No bad protesters in a revolution." And that's said a lot because what it's doing, it's understanding that it's a system that. And I know I have a friend in college that's the greatest person, and when he's not a cop, but you can't be good because if you were good, you'd be defiant to the oppressive orders that you were given. You can't be good and get a raise and a promotion. If they say shoot the tear gas, and I'm a cop and I don't want to shoot the tear gas, and yet I shoot the tear gas, which I know would be a war crime of collective punishment if I did that abroad in any other country, and I still do it on innocent people here, well, then I'm not a good cop. I took an order. So the only good cop is not taking orders.
And that's what that will allow people to understand.
I like how, Nick constantly call out, right wingers, because these motherfuckers be like, oh, my freedom of speech.
Yeah.
My freedom of speech. But they are nowhere to be found when shit like this happens.
Yeah.
Just because, we're not doing it for them, don't mean that we're not all fighting for or exercising our freedom of speech. It's okay, for you to do it. And when your people get arrested, oh, y'all up in arms and you want to send them a motherfucker $1 million. But our people,
the right wingers never come for Lorraine or anyone else, or the 42 protesters. They never come for that free speech. It's. I'll be honest. When you're getting into the right wing and white supremacist crowd, they're not about free speech. Free speech is a cover for their brand of white supremacy.
Yeah, and we discuss this all the time. We call these people out for being frauds because they're nowhere to be seen during this. And these are the people that say, "Oh, you are a good cop." And this is the theory, right? Like, if you are a good cop, you either quit within 6 months, you're demoted within 6 months, or you are fired within 6 months. Because if you're a good cop, you would decline the order to unleash tear gas. If you was a good cop, you would say, no, we are not arresting this lady because she has a First Amendment right. That is what a good cop would do.
But and you'd report the road cop. And nobody does that.
That's a great point.
She has influence and a voice, and people that may not know her. She might spark some minds, A lot of people don't understand until they see their people doing it, until they see their elders speaking against it. So she might have changed some young minds, you know what I'm saying? Or, some Gen Zs out, some Gen X's out there like, hey, like, this is not a good thing. And this is one thing they don't want is good proletarian propaganda that's gonna get them a good pushback. Especially seeing how fucked up the record is right now amongst the people of Atlanta.
So I want to show you guys this one last clip showing how the government is doing everything they can to suppress dissent on this, right? And this is the description here, so you guys understand what's happening in the video I was long to play. He said, today, following a protest at Candace Bank, the bank behind a loan to the... Also, they were protesting this bank that was behind a loan to the Atlanta Police Foundation for Cop City. So during that protest, the police pursued and violently arrested a protester for no clear reason other than continue intimidating and threatening the movement. So this is what they would do every once in a while. And I seen this on the George Floyd protest when I was on the ground. One of the people that got tear gas and harassed by the cops, they would just violently take out an activist for no reason.
Yeah,
like they would do this all the time, violently fuck someone up just to send a message. Like, yo, that this can happen to you, right? The media don't report on this. Then the entire right-wing media apparatus say, "Oh my God, look at these violent protests," as the cop engaged violently against us.
But remember that one white woman that was walking past. She made a mistake and walked into BLM march, and they start shooting rubber bullets. She got her eyes shot out. Another woman, she accidentally drove into a protest. The cops bust her window out, dragged her out, took her baby, and said, "Oh, we rescued the baby. They abandoned her they abandoned this baby during a fucking protest. Whole time they beating the mama ass in the background while they doing TikToks with the baby."
I have a good friend, Linda Tirado. I don't know if there were 30 people who got their eyes shot out in the George Floyd protest, just so you know. But one of those 30 is my good friend Linda Tirado, who is a independent journalist and was up in Minneapolis, and bam, and her whole life is like destroyed right now, has all these hospital surgeries ever since, can't come out and do that work. We met in Ferguson, we were covering all of those protests, and it's a lot more than people think about the people who've gotten their eyes shot out. But let me say this, I really truly believe this. Right now, the Stop Cop City movement is the most important domestic issue of our time. And there's so many important domestic issues, but it's not theoretical. It's so tangible, and it's for a few reasons. One, it's happening right now. Like, it could be stopped right now. You know, I mean, I could talk about Medicare for all, but I don't, see anything in the horizon. This happening right now. It's tangible. It's a climate justice movement. It's a racial justice movement. But if Cop City is built, there will be dominoes in every city all across America, and those police forces will be funded by corporations mostly. So it is about the future of the militarization of the policing of America. And I can't think of a more important issue than that. Go ahead, Nick.
No, we got to wrap up. I see Savvy. Give me a thumbs up whenever you're ready, Savvy. But this is an important litmus test based on what you were saying, because I think this is one of the examples of the government trying to see what they can get away with. You know what I mean? Like, if they let Bill Cop City, nigga, we might as well green light this shit all over the country.
Yeah.